Many South Africans living abroad have unknowingly lost their citizenship. The South African Citizenship Act of 1995 states that South Africans who gain secondary citizenship from another country automatically lose their South African status. That is, unless a special letter of retention is issued by the Department of Home Affairs. The Democratic Alliance wants the relevant section of the law declared unconstitutional and invalid. The party's legal team has been granted special leave to approach the Supreme Court of Appeal on this matter. Adrian Roos is a DA spokesperson for Home Affairs. Adrian, thank you so much for your time. Your argument centered on the fact that this provision is irrational, arbitrary, and serves no legitimate purpose. The judge disagreed. Tell us why you think the judge is wrong.
Well, Takfuma, I think we have certain rights in the Bill of Rights that are absolutely critical in our country. They're all there for a reason. And, Section 20 talks about the right of citizens not to be deprived of their citizenship. And this comes from a long and painful history of this happening to citizens in this country. And so we believed it was very important to fight this irrational rule. From a technical point of view, I think there are two key arguments. And the one is you have a situation where South Africans typically go overseas, they go to find work, and then they find that it takes such a long time to get their passport renewed or to get documentation sorted out, that they take on the citizenship of that country purely just to be able to continue working there and providing for their families. And then later on, they find out that they have lost their South African citizenship. And the DA believes that they should not be unknowingly deprived of that citizenship. Section 7 of that Act provides you a way to renounce that citizenship if you want. And so Section 6.1, under which citizens are losing their citizenship, is actually then redundant. If you want to lose it, you can apply under Section 7 to renounce your citizenship.
Adrian, how many people have been affected and how does it impact them?
Well, it's literally thousands. So there are thousands of applications every year. And I'll give you an example. During lockdown, the retention of citizenship service was closed for virtually the entirety of that process. And so you had a situation where South Africans were stuck overseas. And bear in mind that often they're unable to find work here, and they're forced to go overseas to find work to provide for their families. And then they're stuck in a situation where they can't renew their passport. The Ministry of Home Affairs refused to make any concession to assist South Africans overseas with that. And so then they're stuck in a situation where they can't stay there. And the only way they can stay there is really to get a citizenship. But what happens is then you lose your South African citizenship. And then you cannot return back to South Africa where your own family is, the land of your birth. So it's an extremely... Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had completed your train of thought. But let me pose a few questions to you, which you might ideas which you might disagree with, and then you tell me why they're wrong. First of all, people might say, well, you're emigrating and you choose to acquire citizenship in another country. You should do your homework about what that entails and what the consequences are.
Well, even the Supreme Court of Appeal, talks about there's a legal principle of ignorance of the law is no excuse. And in the case of Willis Faber Enthoven, the Supreme Court of Appeal found that doesn't apply strictly in South Africa. Because of the complexity of our law, you might have a legal statute, one piece of legislation that you read. There could be many elements of case law that come into effect. But we also have a situation where persons go to embassies and they are incorrectly advised. So they're advised that they are able to get the second citizenship, and then they only find out later to their shock and horror that they've been denied their citizenship. So there are some key issues and there are some realities, with the government that we have at the moment and the roadblocks that are put there, which makes this whole thing, even if you did know the law, sometimes people are totally stuck. They are completely stuck and they have nowhere to go. And so they're then forced to take that citizenship. But the point is that you should not be deprived of your constitutional right, regardless of whether you know about this law, because it is totally irrational.
And you mentioned the issue of deprivation there. So that's the next thing I want to ask you, that there is a difference between being deprived of your citizenship and losing your citizenship. And I think that's what the judge focused on. So what's your rebuttal to that? That the people who are losing their citizenship haven't been deprived. They had it, they've chosen to give it up.
Well, I think you mentioned choosing to give up, and this is we did a survey of thousands of South Africans overseas that were affected by this, and they clearly showed that they did not intend to give it up, and so we submitted that evidence to the court to say that when you talk about intention to lose your citizenship, that is a completely different story, and that is provided for in the legislation. So in Section 7, you can do that. If you have the intention to immigrate, stay overseas, then you can renounce your citizenship. But that is not the case in this case.